One thing I was going to ask you, I'm not sure if you've had any communication about this either, but as a firearm owner, have you been contacted about the new health check requirements and that firearm assessment, a Firearm Authority Health Assessment, FAHA, they're calling it? Have you had anything about that sent to you yet?
No, so when I said 0, I actually really did mean that. I haven't had a single email. No, sorry. I do apologize. I got raked over the coals over my collector's license, but that was that particular license. In terms of anything else, no, I haven't received an email about storage, about my current license, about anything about the transition, anything I've seen to do with the health checks, or even this theory component that we need to do at TAFE. I was looking into that the other day. That's an interesting one, $100 to do that. And one of the things that caught me off guard when I was reading through it, it did not say clearly that it was not in person. And that kind of threw me off guard, because I thought, no, not all the firearm owners are going to go up to Northam, or like wherever the TAFE is, where they've got to go and sit this thing. And so I actually had to email them. I say, look, it says online, but it also says in person. Like it's an in-person thing, and they didn't mean the in-person practical component, which Waypol are taking care of, or I'm not even sure how that's going to be rolled out. This was just the theory component, and so even that was quite confusing. And they got back to me, and they weren't even clear on that either. They just said, "Oh yeah, pay the $100 and go online and do the course." And it's just interesting. It's dumb and it's stupid. And no one's spoken to me at all. It's just the collectors one, and they didn't speak. They just copy and pasted the new regs, and that was their response. So I tried to engage with them. I knew they weren't going to make an exception or like cut me any slack, but I did want to see whether there'd be a human at the other end actually willing to discuss, the one of thousands of what I suppose emails they're getting. But no, it was just copy and paste of whatever I didn't address. There was just all this massive dot points and lists saying, meet this requirement, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it flies in the face of the officer who I got a call, because I was quite young when I got my collector's license, but as part of my theatre degree that I was doing, we were doing a lot of stage and theatrical combat. So a lot of the training I did was with, we didn't do guns so much, but we did swords, quarterstaffs, hand-to-hand combat, that sort of thing. And it was awesome training. So I was collecting swords, but I also had a lot of interest in pistols as well, like especially around I suppose what you'd call the antique dueling pistols, and then the Western era ones as well. I was an absolute sucker for growing up, and I was really excited to buy one. And so the opportunity came up to get this Ruger Single 6, and it was just gorgeous. It was just everything I'd wanted. Great price from this this really nice guy. He's not dealing anymore. I think he got out of it years ago. But yeah, it was all great. And then the cop called me up, and he just absolutely gave me the hardest time possible about it. I think I must have been about 19 or 20 years old when I went for this, and or maybe 21. But anyway, he said, "Oh, you're not genuine." I said, "No, I'm very genuine. I very much want to own this firearm on a collector's license." And he said, "Well," he goes, "if you were genuine, you'd buy the real thing." I was like, "I'm a student. I can't afford the real thing." As if I could have the real thing. And so he kept pestering me with all these questions. And then eventually he was really helpful. And he said, "All right, well, look, yeah, okay, I can see you're genuine. But there's these different categories, right? There's historical and there's thematic, and there's all of these things." And I think in my very, I was immature. I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted the pistol. I had kind of selected 2 or 3 of the categories, and I was like, whichever one sticks the most is the one that I want you to read. And so he kind of guided me through it, and he said, "Look, this is the category you should go with. And if you want to apply for collectors later on, go with this category, because that's the one that makes the most sense and, will be well received." I was like, awesome. He's not doing anything illegal. He's done his due diligence by raking me over the coals to make sure that I'm not just a grifter and I'm actually genuine. So that's done. He's given me a bit of a friendly pat on the back and said, "It's all right, mate. Off you go. If you want to get another one, go for it." Years later, just to turn around and have some mug in the same office go, "You don't meet the standards. You don't meet requirements. You can't do this. You're not part of the Arms and Armour Society anymore. It doesn't matter that you were for 5 years, and then when you left and you weren't going anymore, you just, paused your license or whatever. Don't care. Not relevant. Hand it in." So, yeah, Sorry, Kate, I've gone on another rant. I'm
No,
really
this
sorry.
is good. This is good. Usually I'm ranting away, so it's good to have someone else have a rant. I'm sorry that
Your
they did
turn. Go
that
for
to
it.
you. I'm sorry that they did that to you. I think I've said that so many times in the emails that I'm getting from people. I'm just
I reckon you have.
apologizing. I just have to apologize because we shouldn't be treated like this. We have done nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. And
No.
that's why it was so important that people wrote to the new police minister, Reece Whitby. Thank you to everyone who did that and for sending your letters that you sent to him onto me. Uh, it's the emotional appeal now, and this is something that
Mm,
it's kind of been not a strategy by choice. It's just when I talk to people who are anti-gun or who don't understand, or even those who, it's usually my lefty friends. They get very aggressive at me about what I like to do on the weekend with my dad, and that's what I talk about it and frame it in terms of that. This is part of my culture. I grew up in a farming community. I was taught safe firearms handling from a young age. I held the spotlight for dad as soon as I could stand. This is part of how I grew up. We haven't hurt
yeah.
anyone. We are the safest community because we have to be. It's such a serious thing that we do. We take it seriously. We're not cowboys. It doesn't mean we don't have fun, but we are safe with it. This is my culture, and this is the government trampling over a minority group for what? For what? Who is this going
Yeah.
to help? It's not going to help the farmers. It's not going to help protect our native wildlife. It's not going to help if you're putting, especially, I'm conscious of the fact this is a very male dominated industry. And one of the concerns I have with this new health check is about your mental health. And if you've ever taken antidepressants or if you've ever spoken to a psychologist, psychiatrist, or called Lifeline, I don't know one person over the last 5 years who hasn't had to reach out for some form of help. And if we have to give that information over to the state and they can use it against us to take away, sometimes it's the only thing that we have. I remember in WA
Mm,
being locked behind the iron ore curtain and not being able to see my dad for 2.5 years. Something that I did was my friends took me to the range to get my mind off it because that's what my dad did with me when I was younger and needed to have a chat. We would go to the range and you just have some great D&Ms and chats at the
oh
range.
man.
So I'm very
Yeah.
concerned that people are now in a position where we don't want to lie on an official government form because that can be used against us, but we also want to protect our private lives and things that is no business of the
Mm,
state. Why do they need to know that I needed help in 2021 and I had to call Lifeline?
yeah.
It's just
And why is it all down? No, you go. You go.
no, my computer's just playing up, so please chat for a minute. I'm boomering it again.
Oh, again, Kate, what's going on?
I know.
No, I was just gonna say everything I've seen on any of the paperwork, it always says
Okay.
at the discretion of the commissioner, or either the commissioner will decide, or the commissioner's got an awful lot of power, like to look at your health record and go, yeah, no, or your property size and go no, or yes, or like what you're applying for. Um, yeah, I didn't like that. And I also really, really reject strongly, in the strongest possible terms, without swearing strongly, do I reject this phrase that they've kept using about owning a firearm is a privilege, not a right. And this idea that they're trying to compare us to the US, because they did that. Papalia did that early on. They were like, oh, we don't want to be like the US, as if we're going to be like the US. I mean, maybe we would if you gave us the chance, but we've not had that chance and we're not going to get it anytime soon. So the idea to try and scare the community that we're just gun-toting Yanks, rednecks going around, just capping off anyone who holds us up at a red light. No, that's not our Australian gun culture at all. That's not what we do. That's not who we are. And I just, utterly reject that phrase because it just got so much airtime, and that made me really angry. Saying it's a privilege, not a right. No, I don't know. Maybe we don't have the right to bear arms per se, as they do in the US, but it's definitely not. If it's not a right, it's also not a privilege. It's something in the middle, and in a very basic sense, it's a tool. Like
Mm.
whether you use it to go to the range because it's recreational and that also happens to let off some steam. That's great. Some people ride horses, some people punch bags, do it. Some people play golf. It doesn't really matter. But then you know, in the industries that use it for a tool for management purposes, and that's talking about feral pests and that kind of thing. But then also the humane destruction of animals. You know, farmers, they need guns for that kind of work. I mean, you're not going to get up close to a cow that's thrashing around. You're not going to get anywhere near that without a rifle at the very least. So yeah, to call that a privilege, yeah, that was wrong. That was really wrong.